Right, I'm going to go over something else you can do in animation in Photoshop for your animated GIFs. Photoshop is a very simple animation package. I mean, it's not for animation, but it does simple animation. Previously, I showed you how to create an animated GIF. So now I'm going to show you some of the other things you can do with the animation structure in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change to pixels my size, and I'm going to choose something like 1200 by 400. It doesn't matter what. Everything else I'll leave alone. 300 resolution, RGB color, white background, etc. And I'll click on create. Let's zoom in a bit. And let's bring up my timeline. Window and timeline. And I put mine at the top. If you haven't done this before, if you keep the default, it's at the bottom. And I'll click on create frame animation. I've got nothing in here yet. I've just got a background, which is set to white. So there's nothing in here yet. And I've just got one frame in the top left. So I'm going to create a letter. Again. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Let's try again. There you go. So remember, there's more than one text tool. So I was using the shortcut T, but horizontal type tool is all I want. And let's make it, let's move it over there. And let's make it bigger. Command T, something like that. There we go. And press return. Now, there's a couple of things you can do. One is tweening. So for example, I want to move this letter from the left and I want it to animate all the way to the right. I could do that manually, frame by frame. So I can click on a new frame button, move that over, new frame button, move that over, and so on and so forth, which is quite time consuming. So let me undo that. Instead, I will click on the plus button for a new frame and move all the way to the right my letter. So the first frame, the letter's on the left. The second frame, the letter's on the right. I will then highlight both frames, click and shift click. And in the timeline panel at the bottom, there's what I call like a little meteor button here. You can see where the cursor is. Click on that. This is the tweening. And what tweening does is it says, where's the first frame? Where's the last frame? And I will make copies to move or change according to what I've done, the first to last frame. So all I've changed is a movement, a position, the A on the left, the A on the right. And here we have tween with selection, and let's say 20 frames and all layers. Notice it can also take account of opacity and effect. So that's the other thing you can do as well. And the more frames you have, the smoother, the nicer the animation. The fewer the frames, are sort of the more choppy the animation. So I'll do OK. And there we go. And if I do a play, there's my movement. Let's undo that again. Select both frames. So click and shift click. Click on the meteor. And let's say add 5 frames, not 20. Do OK and press play. And you can see how choppy that is. So the more frames you have, the smoother the animation, but the larger the file size. But it's not going to be that large, so you should be fine. So let's change something as well before I do the tween again. I'm going to change the opacity. So I'm going to go over here. Remember, your layers, you can change them according to the frame. Different frame, different properties on the layers. And I'm on frame 1, and I'm on the T layer, and I'm going to set the opacity to 0. Boom, it disappears. But if I go to the last frame, click on it, I'm now going to change the opacity to 100. So let's go back to frame 1, opacity 0, last frame, opacity 100. Shift click to select both frames, click on the tween, and remember again the parameters to change are position, opacity, and effects. Effects would be like drop shadows, etc., etc. So let's do 100 frames, do OK, and you can see how many we've got now. Remember, they're all set to 0 by default, which means as quick as possible. Not 0 seconds, but as quick as whatever's playing the animated GIF as possible that it can do. So just be aware of that. and I will click on play. And there we have a fade in. Now you see it stuttering a bit. That's down to Photoshop and my computer. It's not down to the number or the name or anything. So there you go. See, it's still going on. And eventually we'll get to the end and bingo. And now it restarts again. And if you notice, you see it's still stuttering a bit again. That's down to Photoshop, that's down to memory, your computer, etc., etc. So I'll hit the spacebar to stop. And that's how you can do an animated GIF, changing opacity and use tweening. You can do this on as many layers as you like, of course, but I just did this on one layer and I could have done it on another layer and so on and so forth. But don't forget to export it properly. Go to File, Export, Save for Web, and make sure you're set to GIF, and make sure you have the play buttons in the bottom right hand corner, and make sure you want to change the looping options to whatever you want. If I cancel here, the looping options are in the bottom left hand corner. Once, 3 times forever, or you can click on Other and type in a specific number. Be careful when you do animation in anything. If it never stops and it's always in someone's eye, it can actually be quite irritating, particularly if it's very quick. If it's not very quick, if it's slow like an animated logo or something, then it should be fine. But just be a little bit careful with forever animations. But anyway, that's how you do tweening and animating opacity. And don't forget, you can also do effects as well. And you can play around with like drop shadows and stuff like that.